Hi there, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Cloud-Based Mayhem. By the time this one goes live, I'm recording this a few days before it will, but by the time we get this one up, we will have seen the race course for the 2025 Red Bull X-Alps, which is very exciting. So I thought for this show, I've got quite a few in the can right now, and all really good. I feel like we've been kind of on a roll lately. Had some really fun talks, and this is definitely one of them. I recorded this a few weeks ago, but thought we'd put an X-Alps athlete back on the show. This is with Juraj Koreň. Juraj's from Slovakia. He competed in 2019. He and I actually spent some time together east of Innsbruck near Achensee Lake, beautiful part of the world. And I'd come off kind of a rough day coming up from Kronplatz and got stuck on the north side of the Alps in a big overdevelopment. And so he caught me up there and we climbed up together and dialed out, and I never saw him again. I flew from there down to the Lermoos turn point and he got stuck. He made a different move there. So we talk a little bit about that, and then, but mostly what you'll recognize him from are all the incredible expeditions and climbing and flying expeditions he's been doing the last 5 years. He did apply in the X-Alps in 21 and 23, I believe, but didn't get in. But he's in this time as a veteran and his second go at the race. So we'll find out what he's doing differently this time and what he learned from the last one. And we talk a lot about his incredible efforts in the mountains and flying the last few years, including a solo north face climb of the Eiger and a number of other pretty remarkable ascents and attempts to fly off, sometimes successful, sometimes not. Talk about his big bivvy across New Zealand solo. It was 1,100 Ks out and back, all the way to the north end of the South Island and all the way back, just because why not? And talk about his tandem flying, that he was working on a 3D filming project with Aaron Duragati in Pakistan this summer. And we talk about kind of the risk and decision-making pendulum there, with especially flying tandem when there's all that gear in really thin air where you're moving really fast and certainly don't want to put in your passenger hard. So we talk about that. I really enjoyed this. He kind of feels like a younger brother to me or something. We are on the same page, certainly, on a lot of approaches to life, and he has quite a stoic approach to life and potential death and the participating in high-risk sports. But a lot of fun and some really cool trips and things that he's been doing with his time, including getting ready for the big one, this big race. As before with the Tom de Dorlado talk, I've lost that when I recorded these. The card I had in has failed, so I've lost a few of these shows in our original audio, so you won't notice a difference on their end, but you might on mine, because you won't be hearing sound from my end on the professional gear. You'll hear it through how we record these podcasts on the platform I use. But hopefully, as with Tom, which, by the way, got a ton of feedback on that one. People really loved that talk with Tom de Dorlado and his ongoing battle with the injury last year. So if you haven't heard that one, check it out. People have raved and really enjoyed it. It's quite a good story about resilience and making a comeback. But without further delay, enjoy this talk with Juraj. I love this guy, and it's going to be fun to watch him race this year. Cheers. Juraj, it's great I say this to a lot of people, I feel bad, but it's great to finally get you on the show. It's always hard to schedule these things. It seems like, you're roaming around the Alps. I know you're training for the big race for your second one, and you're busy, but you're in your van and I don't even know where you are. Where are you at?
Thank you for the invitation for the first, and I'm really happy that we finally get into discussion, because it was really hard to maintain our time difference and everything. And right now I'm in Südtirol, in Italian side of the Alps. And yesterday we climbed with my X-Alps supporter one big route and fly down with a tandem, and we plan to do some similar stuff next days in the Dolomites.
Cool. Are you in kind of the Kronplatz, Brunico area or
Um,
west or east of there?
I'm very close to Bozen, or
Okay.
it's a little bit more
Um,
southern. Yeah.
yeah. It's one of my favorite places in the world. The food is great and the flying is great. It's a nice spot. How's the snow over there this year?
Oh, this is very, very difficult question because this winter in the Alps is definitely not a winter. It's very few or very little snow, and right now down here it's about around 12 degrees Celsius in
Ooh,
500 meters above
way
sea
too
level.
warm.
Yeah. So yesterday,
Wow.
basically, we climbed, as we call it, as a summer version. So in a climbing shoes, using our fingers. And it's February. Usually, I climb with the February, like with a pickaxe or the ice axes with the crampons and in freezing cold. And yesterday it was like 10 degrees in the wall.
Jeez, that's not good. We don't like that. Well, hopefully you'll have a big spring. We've thankfully had a pretty cold winter so far, but just we've had epic backcountry skiing. But we just had a big rain event last night and about 100-mile-an-hour winds on the peak top. So I think our snow just got smashed for a few days. But hopefully we'll get a restart. But well, you and I flew together a bit in the 2019 race. I remember having a hike up with you above Aachen there on our way to Lermoos, and then I never saw you again. But we've got some catching up to do with the X-Alps, but also just the last 5 years. I mean, since that race has been busy for you. You've been lighting it up on bivy and expeditions and a bunch of North Face climbing and flying escapades. And just before we started recording there, you were talking about a really cool solo adventure you just had in beer in back in the big 6,000 peaks, the really big stuff, way, what'd you say, 80 kilometers north of beer. So take it where do you want to start? We got New Zealand, we got Pakistan, we got a bunch of stuff we can talk about.
So,
Where would you like to start?
so I will start with this. Why you didn't see me the rest of the race? You know why?
Aha,
because
perfect.
because you have been so fast and you run away and fly away and I never saw you again. Just you've been in front of me. So that's the answer of the question why you didn't see me in 2019. You've been in much better shape, man.
Well, you got to give us old farts credit for something, I guess. But yeah, I remember looking at, I remember talking to my team. I can't remember if it was that day or when I got to Lermoos because, we hiked up together and then I'm pretty sure, I think I flew more direct and you went a little bit more north and just chose a tough line, which I had experience through there. I went through in 2015 and 2017, and
Mm.
that can be a tricky spot. So I remember somebody on the team said, "Oh man, I had a bad day," but I don't remember why.
Yeah, I mean, I flew a little bit more north, and I came half an hour later into Lermos. And then I hike up and it was a bit stormy. So I need to wait because it was like lee side takeoff.
Ah,
And it was a really
yeah.
strong day that afternoon. And we've been able to fly really, really nice. And we've been so slow and we need to fly change direction because of the storms in the way. So that's why I flew towards, then from Lermos more to the south. And I was flying backwards and stuff like this, rain, storm, lightnings.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite a fun.
Fun. I remember catching up with Cody. I think the next day that day leaving Lermoos left him with a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Questions about what am I doing here. It was I think some pilots had some pretty wild experiences that day.
Yeah. Experience doesn't need to be good. They need to be strong.
Yeah, exactly. So why haven't you been doing the X-Ups last couple?
Yeah, I was trying to be a part of, but they didn't choose me. I mean, the organizer
Oh,
didn't
really?
choose me. So after 2019, I found myself as a man who is really enjoying the loneliness and like doing things by my own. And I started learning solo climbing or rope solo climbing, some of free solos, mostly in winter. And I started to combining it with a flying back. So at 2022 winter and early spring of 23, I was doing the Alpine trilogy, the most big north faces of the Alps, which is Eiger, Matterhorn, and Grandes Jorasses. So all of them I did in one winter. Only Jorasses was the 100% successful. From Matterhorn, I was not able to fly off, and I ended on the descent in kind of small avalanche. So I need a helicopter pickup, but it was an experience, strong one. Because it was my mistake. I was so sure about my skill that, I will fly off. I don't need to check out the descent route, but I was trying 1 hour to fly off from Matterhorn, and it ended in the situation that I was in the carabine, in the sling, connected to the ice screw, which was screwed in this 60 degrees ice on the top. And my glider was below me in the vertical part of the wall. I was hanging down with the head in front, or let's say down. And that was the point. And I was thinking like, man, probably you are not able to fly off this stuff. So I decided to descend, but I did not know the route. And I get a little bit lost in the east face, 40 meters from the bivouac hut in 4,000 meters, and I didn't see it, and I was not able to continue because it was really avalanchy, and I started sliding. So I call with the, as we say in Slovakia, with the long nose. I mean, I lose the situation. I lost the control about situation, so I need to call the helicopter to pick me up. And once they picked me up, I saw the hut 40 meters traverse of me. I was like, oh man, really? Yeah, but everybody is able to win, but to accept the lose or that you've been how to say, not winning. It's not for everybody.
Good. They humble us, right?
Yeah. So, and the Eiger I did in 4 days. It was the biggest experience till that time. I was in the wall 4 days, 1 day below the wall. It was really cold. I had a lot of frozen fingers on the hands, on the legs too, and on the top of the mountain was not so good wind, so I need to descend with the paraglider after 4 days in the freezing, really wet, really hungry, didn't eat for 2 days. I need to descend by foot, but that was not so hard descent. It was okay. So yeah, but it was a strong experience.
But you climbed the Eiger solo via the North Face by the standard route?
Yeah.
Wow.
4 days of pure Ragnarok. Was good. Was really good.
I could never think of the Eiger without thinking of the Eiger Sanction with Clint Eastwood. It was quite cool. I don't know where you went through in 2019, but in 2019, after when we went through after Grindelwald, I had a little flight that morning across Grindelwald, and I kind of stuck it in on the trail that goes up to the Eiger above Vangen. And I got a picture with some climbers right at that sign, right underneath the Eiger, and the climbers were heading up, and it was quite nice. I got about 10 minutes to just stop and chill for a second and look and go, wow, I'd seen the Eiger many times. I've flown by it many times, but just to put my mind briefly in that'd be interesting to attack it from that side. It doesn't look easy.
Yeah. It does not. It's really not so easy, but
super intimidating.
Yeah, it was beautiful experience, but yeah, experience doesn't need to be just good. It needs to be strong. So this was beautiful because it was strong.
By strong, you mean just an overwhelming experience?
Yeah, I was freezing. Yeah. I was scared. I was tired.
You had it all.
I was everything on a bad side, but also really excited on the top. Yeah.
It's not much of an experience if it's easy, is it? I mean, that's why the X-Alps is so terrific. I mean, if it was easy, no one cares. It wouldn't be that big a
we
deal.
love the I call it the funny part, but yeah, the challenging one. And one of the things why I started with these things is to prepare mentally for the X-Alps and for kind of this style of sport, which I like, is to face the fear of myself or the weaknesses of myself. And that changed my life a lot, I can say, this Eiger experience.
I bet. How old are you?
Mentally or physically, it's a big gap between the two numbers.
That's an excellent answer. Well, let's go with physically.
Yeah, it's 33.
33.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were 27, 28 when you did your first X-Alps.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. And how long have you been flying? When did you get into this?
I mean, I was starting flying because of my father put me on really two-liner, 9-cell, whatever, really bullshit glider in 1998. So I had 6 years when I first time fly, and I landed in a cow shit storage place. But then I really started at 18, the cross country, because below 18, I mean, I don't have enough physical knowledge to understand what the hell is going on up there. So from 18, so right now it's like, 15 years of
15 years.
Constant.
You've been at it quite a while. For some reason, I thought, interesting.
But that doesn't mean that I know how to fly. The number of the years doesn't, it's different.
Yeah, that's true. We've all got a lot to learn in this sport. That I have always said, and maybe this just make myself feel better because I'm 52. I'm a lot older than you are, and I didn't get into this until I was 36. But I'd often thought, growing up, I grew up ski racing, and I was really addicted to speed, and I was really stupid, as most people are when they're young. And I always thought, man, if I had gotten into flying when I was when you did at 18, I would have definitely killed myself. That in other words, I feel like being a little older and a little wiser and a little less durable and a little less, less God syndrome, that was probably good for me. Was that ever, I don't know, when you were 18, were you really aware that this was a sport that could kill you?
Yeah, this is a really big question. Maybe I'm sorry if I will answer it a bit longer, but yeah, I started in these years when mostly men are really like feeling undead or immortal. So yeah, my first years, and still I'm with it. It's I'm really pushing by my point of view. So yeah, I'm flying and I have a fear, and I'm flying in the lee side and all of this shit. I was hanging on the trees so many times and flying in thunderstorms and windy stuff and stuff like this. But yeah, I mean, I get into the understanding that I can die, and I accepted it like in 2014, I think. So quite early in the age. And after this, I just accepted it. So it opens a new horizons to me to fly and to know like, okay, this could be the last time, maybe. Or also with the climbing, it's really, really connected. If you have the experience that I felt in free soloing, and I stopped myself in the last second, I felt like 8 meters in verticality. Then I start sliding on the snow with the head down. I lost my ice axis. I had my face in the tough snow. My bag of 20 kilos was on top of me, and I stopped with my right elbow on the second try, and I was like a few meters before the last drop, and I will be dead. So after all of these experiences, it's quite important to understand that, I mean, we are mortal, and calculate with it. So yeah, that's what I want to say. I'm sorry, my English probably in philosophical way is not enough to explain the things which I have in my mind.
I think you've done a really good job. I was going to ask, if you'd had a really close call, and you just answered it. You obviously did. Did that? I mean, it's one thing to say, I know that this can kill me and I'm okay with it. It's another thing to almost live through that, because it's not really so much us, is it? That we can leave this world and that sucks, but it really more sucks for your family, for the people who love you. It's not something we can be cavalier about.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if that experience in 2014, did it change your approach? Have you ratcheted down? Have you given yourself more margin, or is it more that, I'm at peace with this?
This is again maybe a little bit long and complicated answer, but I found myself in antique philosophy called Stoicism. Maybe you know a little bit about it.
Yeah.
And one of the most important pillars of it's memento mori. So remember you are dead. And after that, I was speaking with my family quite a lot. And we live in, or my opinion is that we live in a free world, which means everybody is responsible for his deeds. And I mean, I'm not owned by my mother or my father. So if I die, it's kind of, it sucks, but it's my life. So, yeah. And one of the things is that my father already died when I was in Antarctica in 2017 on an expedition. And I mean, with this in my family, we don't have a kind of problem that somebody is telling me like, hey man, what I will do if you will die. That's why I'm still without the kids and single, of course. But I mean, parents or brother, it's all good with it. All good. I mean, they understand that I love this style of life. And many times when I was going for example, my first base jump, or when I was in India for this solo mission, I was writing my brother like, hey man, here is my car. Maybe if I will not answer in 2 hours, I'm dead. And here are the money I'm owed to this guy, this amount of money, and bring my glider to a young talents or whatever, So, and he's all the time kind of accepting it. So, but I didn't see in their thoughts. So that's the answer.
I like hearing that. That's a great answer. The expedition in Antarctica, you were with your dad when he died?
No. I was in that moment in a sailboat sailing back through the Drake's Passage in the Beaufort Level 9. Quite wild, about it stuff. So, and when I was leaving, he was already kind of in the hospital in bad condition, but he became my father when he was 50 years old when I born. So he was quite old in that days, but older. Yeah. What I want to say is that this experience quite opened my thinking about this problem, which is in those days probably a bit kind of on the side, but it's a part of the life. So, yeah.
Oh, thanks for sharing that. Sorry about your dad. Yeah. What were you doing down in Antarctica?
In Antarctica? Yeah. We with one of my climbing partner, we started the project to climb the Virgin Mountain, or do a first ascent on every continent, which we called as a 7 Virgin Summits project. And the idea was to climb the mountain and fly down. So the first expedition was to Antarctica. The second was in the North America and Greenland in 2019, just after the X-Alps. And the part 3 was now in Asia, this Indian Himalayas stuff I did.
Cool.
So,
Wow. Are you more of a climber or a flyer? I mean, or flyer. Jeez.
Yeah.
Pilot.
Yeah, yeah, I'm definitely a pilot. That's my mentality. So it's easy to even see in my climbing. It's totally different approach to the situation. It's not like this hitting with the head the rock, like I will fight through, but like a snake, left, right, finding
Ah,
a doable route, or yeah, kind of this stuff. And of course, do not fall.
yeah. Yeah, do not fall. Okay, before we've already left the X-Alps, but we can't leave my favorite subject too early because we have to talk about New Zealand and the time in Pakistan with Aaron Dirigati and the filming you were doing there, and then also India. But I would love, and I think the audience would love to hear. You had this experience in 2019, and I'd like to just hear more about, did that go personally well, not well? Were you happy? Were you sad? How did that all go down? But also, you've had typically, many athletes will do it consecutively. You didn't do it in 21 and 23, and now you're back. So you've had quite a bit of time to not only think about it, but probably get a lot of perspective from the first one that, okay, that's something I'm going to change and that's something I need to do differently. I'd like to just hear your perspective on it.
Yeah. I was thinking a lot. That's definitely true. And the experience of 2019 was quite tough because before the race, I got, or my relationship was, how to say, ended. It ends. And I was living in my car, kind of on the street, not eating so much, like once per 2 days, just a little, not sleeping. And I had really bad mental condition. I was really, how it is. Everybody in the life gets through this kind of situation. And I lost like 10 kilos before the race.
Whoa.
So I was really thin.
Jeez.
Yeah, 68 kilos and 183 centimeters. That's quite light. So it was one of the worst experience of my life till then. And I did a lot of things bad. A lot of decisions have been really not clever. And I learned from that. And one of the most important thing to learn from 2019 X-Alps was finally to fly only in the Alps or mountains like that ones. Because before X-Alps, I had the experience only mostly flying in Slovakia, which doesn't have valley winds, no fan. So I was confused what the hell is going on in the Alps. The valley winds is the most important thing. You need to know how it works, and I do not know anything about it. Really, I was lost. So once I get in the valley winds, I was surprised, like, what the hell? The takeoff was 0 wind, and here is 10 meters per second from the north, and then I fly on the other side, and there was 10 meters from the south. Like, what the hell? Where the wind is going? Like, what the hell? Really confused. And I'm not telling nothing about fan. Yeah, that was totally. I just don't know. Not know. If with the valley winds, I know nothing.
Just standard valley winds.
Yeah. If I don't know anything about valley winds, about fan, I know like minus 20, so below nothing.
Right.
So
that race too, I think we have to remind people some perspective. The weather in the 2019 race was really weird. It was, I don't remember. I don't think we. I mean, every team is different, but I don't remember ever going to a launch and having it be rowdy. It was like everywhere up high you could just take off from everywhere. But remember the first few days were there was no thermals. It was just kind of stormy but not stormy nasty. It was just tons of cloud, and there was a lot of walking. Put it that way. And then the sun came out, and there was no thermals.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just so hot and so stable. That big sandstorm came in from Africa, from northern Africa, and I mean, walking through Chamonix, it was over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's 30 something Celsius.
It was even more than 40.
Just crazy. I mean, yeah, exactly. Yeah, there you go. And I mean, just stupid. It was just ridiculous. And yeah, I mean, it was weird. I mean, in some ways, it was the least dangerous X-Alps I've participated in, certainly compared to 21. But it was just bizarre. It was just really wild.
Yeah, I was lost too, man. I really remember everything you said. That day with the sandstorm, or like air from Africa, hit me when I was on Titlis, or yeah, and I was like, I was hiking up half of day because I landed in 2,300 on the north side, and I was not able to climb up, so I need to hike up. I was totally done when I get up on the takeoff, and 3,000 something was the Titlis, and I took off, and I said to myself, hell yes, and now you all in front of me will see.
Fly 100K.
We'll see how I will fly, and I just glide till I didn't even reach the Grindelwald. Even the airspace towards Grindelwald or towards Eiger turn point was turned off. I was not able to glide there. I was just sinking, zero, nothing, no valley winds. Yeah, now I know that if you don't have valley wind, that's probably no thermals. But that day I was like, what the hell? And then I hike. And that day you said in Chamonix 100 Fahrenheit, I was that, or the next day after it, I was hiking towards Saint Hilaire, the Tuvet, the turn point, and man, my rubber on my shoes, it's gone on the asphalt. It's just melted. Really, the glue which connects the rubber to my shoe, it melted, and it's gone.
I know, man. I know.
Man, it's so crazy hot. So
that day, the day I'm sure that you flew off Titlis. So I did a couple little moves out of Chamonix the next morning, and I was going down towards the Saint Hilaire turn point, and launched at 11, and it should have been booming, and I didn't get a single thermal, and I landed, and I decided, okay, well, if I climb again, it was a big climb. It was like 2,000, and that wasn't 2,000. It's probably 1,500 meters, but it was a big climb. It was a big commitment to get up tall again. This was on the east side of the valley, heading down to Saint Hilaire, but it was going back up into pretty big terrain. And I thought, okay, I could either walk to Saint Hilaire 60K or I could give it a try. And so I'm going to give it a try. You always have to try, right? So it was so hot that my buddy Ben and we were packing snow onto the back of our necks and onto our balls. I mean, it was so hot just to do anything to cool down. I couldn't believe it. And the temperature at the top of the mountain after climbing 1,500 meters was exactly the same as it was on the ground. There had been it hadn't cooled 1 degree. And I thought, that's really not good for the last rate. I don't think this is going to work. And I took off at 3 in the afternoon. I mean, 3 in the afternoon in the middle of summer. And I didn't hear a single beep from my Vario all the way to the ground. It was the most depressing flight I've ever had in my whole life. I landed back down in the valley and looked at my, remember I'd said it was going to be 60K to walk, or, I looked down and it was still 38 kilometers to walk to Saint Hilaire. Oh my God, the wheels came off right then. I just thought that's not even possible. What the hell just happened?
That was crazy, man. In the day when I lost my rubber from the shoes, I started in the valley north of Chamonix. It is Val d'Isère, I think it calls. There's a famous place for ski races because I was flying more to the north. Yeah. I took off at 12 in 2,500, and I spent like an hour to cross slightly towards Passy, and there I get finally out of this. We call it a soup. Yeah, when you are below the inversion. Man, I was kicked out in 7 or 6 meters per second up to 3,800, and it was not still in the cloud base, and it was flying like crazy good because I was above. Yeah, in that day, some of the people toppled on Mont Blanc, maybe you know. But they took off from 3.8 from.
Remember, that was the day that Toma got to 6,000 meters or something down by Briançon.
Yeah.
I was walking to Saint Hilaire, and Toma was at 6,000 meters. I've never been so depressed. I just thought, what the fuck?
Me too. And he was flying without the gloves, you know, without the balaclava, without the gloves, and without the sunglasses. I said to that day, and that man he's a god. I cannot survive in 6,000 without the gloves, man. Probably was too hot too.
Oh, that's funny.
And you see, it was again very hard experience, but now we're logging because what was hard to survive.
Yeah, of course, right? Type 3 fun. Type 3 fun. When you're doing it, it's miserable. You look back and it's the best thing you've ever done.
Yeah, at the last moment till Saint Hilaire of walking to Saint Hilaire, I remember that I have kind of not a blackout, but I was really not consciousness 100%. I was just like, my supporters speak to me, and I was like, really not answering. So they put me in the with a force. They forced me to go in the water, and after 10 or 15 minutes in the water, I finally found myself that I can speak again because I was probably overheated. And at the moment we came to Saint Hilaire, and I was like, yeah, after it was 10 days, yeah, finally it's gone, and now I want to continue, you know?
Right.
I was 10 days dreaming about the moment when it ends, and when it ends, I was like, hey, I really want to continue 1 or 2 days more, at least.
Yeah. Always. I always feel that. I have a funny story from that night. So the very last night, I was flying through Le Grave and really having a good flight. I was, finally that, like you said, the soup had passed and it finally gotten better, and I was up in big terrain and I was making good time. And then a huge cell blew up over Briançon, and I flew as far as I could into the storm, and then it forced me to the ground. The gust front was nasty. And, so I landed and I started walking, and I realized that Toby was just in front of me, but he had top landed. And I thought, man, I don't think he's going to get down before the cutoff. He's going to get stuck up there. So I can get him. The race was over the next day at whatever it is, 11 a.m. I think, okay, I can get him. And then Marcus Anders was in Briançon, and I didn't realize this, but he'd been hurt. And so he hadn't moved in a long time. And I thought, man, he must be really tired. He actually was hurt. I didn't know that till after the race, but I thought, oh man, I can pick up 2 spots here. This is great. So I hadn't pulled my night pass, and I was all fired up, and I walked all night, and I get through Briançon, so now I'm ahead of both of them. And but then you start in your head, oh, maybe he could fly over me in the morning, those bastards, and I got to keep pushing. And so I'm walking up to the pass. I forget, it's not the Col d'Angel, but it's where they start those huge 300 FAI. I forget the name of that pass. It's really famous for the Tour de France too. But anyway, it's east of Briançon. You know it? Okay. Col de Lizard or something, I think it's called. And so I'm walking up to that, and I start hallucinating, and it's 3:00 in the morning. I'm out of it, and I'm walking barefoot. My feet are so trashed and so mangled from all the heat from the days before that I'm not even wearing shoes because they hurt too much. So I'm actually walking barefoot, and I'm not making any time. I'm barely moving, And the next thing I know, Ben, my supporter's kicking me. And I wake up, and I don't remember this, but apparently I go, stop kicking me, man. Let me sleep. And he goes, dude, you can't sleep in the middle of the road. So they had been driving up to the pass and noticed that I stopped moving on the live tracking, drove back down, and I was right in the middle of the road.
Man. Yeah.
Just passed out, not even on the side of the road, just
in the middle.
Hanging out in the middle of the road, asleep.
Man, these are the experiences. Yeah. But I can say I really love this in some way. It's not possible to do it every year and like once per month or whatever. You need to get your stuff together and your body reconvalescence for 1 or 2 years. But then I cannot wait for that. again.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, Nate Scales, he's a friend of mine that lives right down the street here, and he did it in 2007. And he said, there's only one way to get there, and the X-Alps is going to get you there. And I love that saying. I mean, we all, what that means. By getting there, it means you get to that crazy place in your mind that's just, it is exciting.
Yeah.
It's terrific.
That's what
it comes from that incredible combination of, exhaustion and adrenaline and training and everything, fear, all of it. It just combines into this cocktail in your mind of, oh, it's so good.
Yeah, it's so good. And I could say it's addictive. Addictive.
That's very addictive.
Yeah, thanks
very,
God
very addictive cocktail.
That our bodies are not able to do it so often. So otherwise it's a deadly cocktail. That's what Aaron told me.
Yes, for sure.
Man, these X-Alps, that's kind of gladiator fights of Rome, kind of this stuff. And I really, really get it. In one way, it's we can see a danger or whatever, but it's fun in strong way. But yeah, that's how I understood it.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay. So second part of that question was, what are you changing this time around? How is your approach changing because of your first experience?
So first of all, I was flying a lot in the Alps, and mostly in the Alps. I stopped flying in my home country, or like the countries where aren't the valley winds. And I was trying to fly a lot of bivouac flying, which means flying not the usual and not the best XC routes only. So to like simulate the X-Alps feelings in some way. Of course, the bivouac flying, it's much more slower and stuff like this, but at least it have much more common with the X-Alps style than the classic XC flying, which I was doing before. Yeah, I was also thinking more about my supporting team and planning, of course, and learning to be independent in decisions. And how to say, we call it like to sniff or to feel the air without to see the weather forecast. It's just you wake up, you look, and it's like, okay, today is a stable day because there's a south wind. I can see in the air something like soup and blah 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 blah.
Kind of dirty.
Yeah, dirty. Or okay, now it's cold front, and like to be as little addictive to the help of the others, which in my opinion, in my situation, was mostly the most common mistake was to not. I wasn't able to make a big decision alone. I all the time asked my supporters, "What do you think? How, where I should fly?" That's one of the thing. And the last is that I flew almost all of the Alps by myself. So I basically everywhere, or not everywhere, but I was in many places, and now I'm training a lot, and I will fly it at least one or two times before the race by my own.
The route, basically the route. I mean, we don't know exactly the route yet, but
but we will get it in March, which is pretty soon.
Yeah.
We'll know the route, and I have free time. I'm not working anymore, and I will just concentrate on observing the route and flying it as much as possible. So,
what is your work?
Yeah, I'm of course a tandem pilot, man.
Okay, and you did a kind of a cool tandem project with Aaron Durgati in Pakistan this last summer.
Yeah, we have been involved in filming some 3D movie in the Pakistan, and I was a tandem pilot for the cameraman, and we've been flying with the 3D camera on, I think, 3 meter long, aerodynamically stabilized, how to say, pole where was the camera. So 3 meters pole with 4 propellers, which working as the gimbal, and camera for €80,000 with the 12 object.
Jeez.
Yeah, with the 12 glasses, and we need to manage it in the air. And I don't know how many times you've been flying in Pakistan, but there is only rocks and glacier, and both things are very dangerous to land. And if you can imagine to land so high in such a dangerous place with almost no rescue possibilities, with the ENC tandem plus a lot of crazy expensive gear with skis and ski boots on, that's something. I mean,
Jeez, that sounds intense, man. I'm sweating just hearing about it. Man,
yeah.
I mean, and you're also in really thin air, so you're moving fast.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's you are landing probably in high altitude. So the best top land and fly off with the tandem ENC tandem was in 5,300 or 5,500. I'm not really sure now, but man, that was crazy.
Whoa.
Top land with the tandem, with the camera, with the skis, and took off too.
And what were you filming, kind of the combo thing that Aaron's been doing and you've been doing, or was it more just the beauty of flight? What was the capture mission?
Capture mission was to film Aaron and his friend Matthias doing combos. So flying, skiing together. And I was kind of following them with the cameraman and shooting in the air the 3D shots, which as I saw them, they're really, really awesome and beautiful. Really.
Oh man, I mean that kind of lens is going to capture it in amazing high def. Was the cameraman a pilot as well?
No. But mountaineer, maybe you know him, Jonathan Griffith.
Oh, I've heard the name. Yeah. Was he totally cool with it, or was he spooked?
We've been training and flying in the Alps too before, Mont Blanc area. And after a while, he gets quite good. And you know what the funny thing was? He was all of the time, he was watching in the phone, which was capturing or transferring what is the camera capturing.
All the footage.
And he was not puking. In Pakistan, in 6,500 meters altitude, we get thermaling like crazy. Man, I'm really impressed about this guy. How strong is his stomach?
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, and you're also dealing with cold and gloves and
yeah.
You remember John Sylvester's film, Birdman of the Karakoram? That guy was puking all the time.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
I was scared about this, but he never puked. Once or two times he was kind of sick, but he all the time managed it. Yeah, pure fighter.
Yeah, no kidding. You must be you've got the, what am I trying to say? I just think that I would be scared to death doing that. I mean, everything for me changes when I do. I've never flown commercial tandems. I just fly my family and stuff. But doing that's a lot of pressure. You're good under pressure.
I enjoy that.
Yeah, you must.
I mean, again, it's with this connection with mountaineering and solo missions and long term and stuff like this. I felt really good there. It was challenging, of course, but all of this responsibility and thinking about the situation and kind of, pushing like, yeah, let's go, let's do it, let's try our best. And, in some way we can speak about some danger, but and some pushing the limits. But I was also discussing with Aaron the whole situation and what is my opinion and stuff like this. And sometimes I was even the guy who chose like, hey guys, I think now like this, now like that, this is impossible, kind of not really just head in front, but thinking and pushing when this is possible or not. So For me, it was good school, and I was enjoying even this pressure, which was put it on me, because after the expedition, Aaron even told me like, "Hey man, I will never do this like you, like to be a tandem pilot there, you know."
Yeah, I would never do that for sure. No way. Uh, Tell me about the dynamic of working with Aaron. I've done a lot with Aaron. I really like Aaron. I love his approach. I've done some training with him. I've never worked intimately like you did at all, but his approach to he takes a lot of risk, massive amount of risk, and he's incredibly confident. I would imagine, working in that kind of environment was it hard in terms of, keeping to your own risk profile and what you're comfortable with? Did it allow you to push too far? I don't know. You see what I'm saying? I mean, is it a dynamic that you struggled with, or was it pretty straightforward?
I was working with Aaron even before, and I know him for quite a lot of years. And the dynamic, I don't know how it really sounds in English, but in my opinion, it was all good. I didn't see any problem. And we did also before a lot of combo missions and free soloing and stuff like that. So, I mean, he chose me to be a part of this expedition because he know me personally, and we share some tough experiences together. So I'm glad. I was happy to be there, and I think we did a very good job without any kind of pushing one or another into something which we feel as something not possible. But we tried. It was very bad weather, very, very, very bad weather, as the people said. It was very low cloud base, just 6,500, windy, stormy. It was, once we flew, it was like 70 or 90 kilometers wind in 7,000 meters. And we've been flying like tandem and shooting and stuff up to Trango Tower because we felt it's all good, or it's doable. We have been facing some snowing there, and as far as we know, snowing in mountains like Himalayas and Karakoram, it's something super strong. It's nothing which you can compare here in the Alps. There's sometimes 100 kilometers wind because of the snow in the valley, and the ground is flying. And once I was hiking, and the rocks been flying, small ones, but still they've been kind of more going to the distance than falling, the glide ratio better than 1-to-1. So I was like, they are flying. So what I want to say, it was really nice experience. I was pushing a little bit limits, but it was this X-Alps style, kind of. So all good.
Sounds like good training.
Oh man, awesome.
Good training for the race coming up. I mean, I guess everything's good training, isn't it? I mean, watching Kriegel and Peter last year do their 4,000 peak thing, I thought, well, Jesus, now nobody's going to beat them.
Yeah, nobody. Again,
it's perfect training.
Yeah, it was awesome. Amazing. Awesome to watch it.
Yeah, that was awesome. Okay, so we got to talk about New Zealand. You did a solo bivvy. It was about 1,000K or something?
Yeah, 1,100. Yeah.
Okay. Where'd you start? Where'd you end? What were the cruxes?
So I started in Queenstown, and I'm usually setting like 3 levels of goals. So one is pessimistic, one is optimistic, and one is like God level. So my optimistic was 660 k's to the north, close to the Nelson, which is, as I see, the last possible place to fly free only by paraglider without a lot of walking, because there is a CTR which hits the ground, or 300 above ground level, which is super low. And that was my goal, to not break the rules. Or the airspace, wherever I'm flying. So I started, and first day I flew the second longest flight of New Zealand, and the longest flight of X contest on New Zealand, like 220 k's. Because it was good.
Wow, you had good weather, huh?
Oh man, yeah. People say it wasn't good, but I was on X-Alps. Good means something different. It was stormy, rainy, but X-Alps style. So then I sleep in my tent, flying every day, sometimes 40, sometimes walking 20 Ks, sometimes flying 180, whatever. Yeah. And after, I think it was like 14 days, I came to Nelson, where I landed exactly on the most furthest point I can get by air legally. And then I said to myself, like, hell, I still have a lot of time. What I should do here? Should I drink or party or no? I will fly back. Okay, so I didn't land in Nelson. I landed in Blenheim, and I hitchhiked to Nelson. I'm sorry.
Okay, got you. So Nelson's the top one.
Yeah, so I landed in Blenheim, and I said to myself, hell yeah, I still have a lot of time. What I should do? Should I drink or should I fly? So I decided to fly back. I hitchhiked to Nelson, where I can start flying again, because even there is a airport, but their airspace is really designed to be able to fly away. And I started flying, and as I knew the situation and I understood on the way the föhn, the valley winds there, and also the sea breeze, which is quite strong in New Zealand mountains, and I flew in like few days towards the highest peak of New Zealand, this Aoraki, how it calls in English, Mount Cook. Yeah, I landed very close to Mount Cook, and then comes the heat wave, very similar as the X-Alps in 2019. Really? Yeah, I was not able to overclimb 1,700 meters, which is like 500 below the peaks. So,
right.
Then I was just hoping, jumping like a frog, few kilometers per day. And after 27 days, I landed very close, 30 kilometers south of Mount Cook. And it was 1,100 kilometers of Volbiv solo. So I ended that trip. It was really beautiful experience, because I was, except 1 day of hitchhiking and 1 day of flying from Nelson, I didn't see paragliders and people and stuff like that. So it was really beautiful experience, and I'm really big fan and, let's say, a nerd of Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. And it was really nice to feel that feeling that I'm flying across the Middle Earth as an eagle. It was really, really beautiful. Those who really want to have some feeling, I have a document on YouTube which have at least 1 hour, but it's worth it.
The film was beautiful. Yeah, I watched it before we did this. I watched it last week, just kind of in prep to talk to you. It's amazing. It's really, really quite something.
It was a dream.
It's cool that you talk about the Lord of the Rings. I was back in my sailing days. This was before my flying days at all, but I was in New Zealand for all 3 years. So all 3 releases of the Lord of the Rings.
Man.
I was actually there in New Zealand, and there was this I was up on the North Island by the Bay of Islands, and there was this tiny little theater that was a dinner theater. So you could go early and get dinner and have a nice lamb. And then remember, it would come out at midnight of the opening day, which was December 19th, all 3 of those years. And that was really neat, man. That was really cool to be in New Zealand and all the hype and everybody's dressed up. And,
don't tell me
such big books of my youth.
Don't tell me these. Cool. I will sacrifice my left leg to be a part of that time and place, man. What the hell?
It was neat. It was really cool. It was really, you just felt like you were in Mordor. You were there.
Man, I'm jealous.
Very cool. Well, finally, I get to say something that makes you jealous. I've been jealous about all the things you've been up to lately. Fantastic. What do you think it is? Not a lot of people. I used to instruct for Outward Bound, and we had a portion of our course. I often instructed 30-day courses, and these were mostly kids. They were 16 to 18 years old, and a big chapter, I guess, of a 30-day course on an hour bound course is solo. We would put the kids out on solo for 72 hours would be the max. It'd be 3 days. But you'd only give them a tiny little bit of food and really nothing to do. And you would tell a story. There's a story about Colorado Outward Bound School back in the day in the 50s where a train gets trapped and they can't get resupply into them. And the instructors were really smart, and they decided, okay, we don't have any food. Everybody's got to live. We can't break the group up. So we're going to put everybody on solo. So what they did is they put everybody out where, you're by yourself, and it would be kind of a navigational trick to see somebody else. And you would say, okay, you're going to get bored. You're going to want to get up and you're going to want to go do stuff. But if you do stuff, you're going to burn calories, and we don't have any food. Yeah. So the best thing to do is sit and be quiet and don't do anything. Yeah. Don't burn calories. We're just waiting for the train to come in. And what they learned after this was that not all, but 6 of 10 had a really powerful experience. And at the end of the 30-day course, of all the things they did, the river and the mountains and the navigation and leading and cooking and becoming independent in the outdoors, the solo was the most important. It was the biggest piece. It was the thing that made them the most scared going into it, because most people, not just kids, but most people never spend any time alone in their life. It's just not something humans are good at doing or do it, and not very purposefully normally, unless you're going into a 10-day silent retreat or something. So anyway, my point is, we would put these kids out on solo, and it was about that. Our patrols were always 10 students, and, usually 6. It wasn't all of them. Some of them just hated it. But 6 of 10, typically at the end, when you kind of do your debrief at the end of this thing, that was the most powerful part of their experience. My very long-winded question to you is, why do you like being solo? What do you think has made you gravitate towards that kind of travel? And what are people missing that don't do it?
Yeah. As you said, it's a really strong experience. And it wasn't the first solo mission at all. I was flying the first Volbiv in 2014 alone in Romania, which is not the super wild country, but there are bears which can kill you. You can lost, it's no signal and stuff like this. Like for a Europe, pretty wild one. Compared to Alps, it's much, much more wilder, even to my home country, Slovakia, which is like one of my neighbor in my village was destroyed by the bear like 100 meters from the house. So It's kind of, there is some nature, let's say. What the thing on the solo missions after Himalayas and many other places I've been visiting, it's that's only on myself, everything. And these decisions is a game. And I like that because I'm really thinking and comparing every of my decisions. One is, like to get the water, how you can get water there. And is this water clean or whatever, everything you need to think. So decisions. And this game, it's a mental game. And I'm in that moments, I'm forgetting about any problem from home, like paying the bills or whatever. It's just you and how to survive and how to be as effective as possible. So all of the solo missions or experiences to me are a way how to find peace in myself and to understand myself as let's say a spirit, what's inside. Because when people are with somebody else, you can speak, and if you can speak, you can forget the things, the bad decisions you did, not only by choosing a wrong water source, but I mean the mistakes of your life, like you are angry with somebody else or you whatever, the classic problems. And when you are alone, your mind will give it to you again, like, oh, you made this mistake and you make this friend angry, or this wasn't a good decision and stuff like this. and not everybody can handle own mistakes he does, or I'm sorry, I'm translating my thoughts in Slovakian directly in English, and I don't mean he is like you, but it's how we say. So, this is a really strong mental game, and for me it helps to be a better person when I am much or a lot of time alone, because I can sort my thoughts and think about the things I made in the past. That's one of the important thing of the solo. And as you said, saving energy. When I came to New Zealand, I bring food with me, which most of it, like over 50%, was with the meat. And importing the meat in New Zealand, it's forbidden. So policeman on the airport took half of my food, and I became I'm not vegan, I'm not vegetarian, I'm eating just everything in those days. And they took all of my meat, so I become vegan in one day. And I lost 10 kilos. I lost 10 kilos in 27 days, and I lost a lot of my hair from my head, because
really,
it was, man, I had plan of 500 grams of food per day. And I ended with 250 grams and vegan. I lost.
Oh God, let this be a warning to vegans.
Man, my body wasn't ready for that, and I lost. I was really, really weak. So I was basically really, really flying and land as close as possible to the next takeoff. Basically, most of the time I was taking off from the same spot where I landed and where I camped. So I was really saving money, saving energy, but still I lost 10 kilos.
It's interesting what you say about decisions. I can really relate to that. And I've talked about it before on the show, so I won't bore you all who listen to all these with the same story again. But I really got to see this very up close and personal, because I had done quite a few big solo mission trips before the Alaska thing with Dave Turner. And, but with Dave Turner, it was really cool because I got to see both sides of it in the same expedition. So he and I were together for the first, let's see, I guess it was 21 or 22 days. And for that period of the time, we also had the film crew, so for many days we had no film crew because they couldn't get to us or whatever. Red Bull cut off funding. There's lots of reasons. But so some of that time it was just Dave and I. And the problem with Alaska was that every decision to go up was always a really hard decision, because until we got to the north side of the range, getting through terrain is really gnarly. It's all alder. It's just nasty, and the bugs and so to take the time and the energy to go up 3,000 feet to find a launch that you didn't know was there or not, our maps sucked and we didn't have anything. And so it was all visual, which you're down in the lowlands and it's hard to get up. And so every decision seemed to have a lot of weight on it. And it was never, if it was the wrong decision, it wasn't like, if it was been my decision and it sucked, it wasn't like Dave was hitting me over the head and blaming me or anything. It was never that. We had a very good rapport and it was all working, but I've just found that the decision making was almost impossible for both of us, because you just didn't want to be the one making the wrong decision. And when he left, and the film crew left too, so Red Bull was just, okay, we're done. You've made it past Denali. That's the end of the film. And I said, no, that's not the mission. I'm going to keep going, whether the film ends there or not, but I'll film everything and I'm going to keep going. So from then on, I was totally alone until the end. And that's in the film. You get to see part of that, but it got, and this isn't a negative about Dave at all, but the trip got so much better after everybody left, because I had to own every decision. There was one day where I walked up to launch and sat there and threw rocks at my shoes for like 10 hours because it was blowing over the back. I couldn't launch. I didn't want to walk back down because I've got bad knees. I never walk back down. So I just sat there all day.
Yeah.
And it was great. And at the end of the day, it finally turned around. It still wasn't great, but I had an epic flight, and I ended up flying with a golden eagle and flew across this huge glacier, which I didn't know how I was going to make it across. I mean, it was a critical step that I'm pretty convinced would not have happened if I was with anybody, because when you're with somebody, then you start going, well, what should we do? Well, what should we do? We should do this. Let's do that. And it just wouldn't have happened the way it did. And the way it did for me ended up being beautiful and just incredible. And I don't know, there's some kind of magic about being solo, but there's also, I find it a lot less stressful.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree. That makes sense. Yeah.
Also with soloing, not only in flying, but also in climbing or mountaineering. Yeah, it's the same feeling which you had. I have too. Even on New Zealand, I mean, there was days where I flew very close to, I think it calls Arrowhead Peak or something like this. And I landed and I make water, whatever. I say, oh yeah, tomorrow I will fly like hell from here, or whatever. And in the morning I bombed it out and I flew backwards, like 3 kilometers heading back. And I landed on the opposite side of the valley and I was like, oh shit. Yeah, but never mind. I played a little bit of AC/DC and enjoyed a day, And you know what I did next day? I hiked 20 kilometers backwards for the better spot, And I was all good. I was walking in the middle of nowhere, crossing the rivers without any path or whatever. And I was just enjoying singing and like, hell yeah, I am. I'm on the end of the world and I have some problems, but I will find it out and we'll see what happened. And at the end, in 2 days, I was outside of the mountains and I was able to fly really peacefully and good. And at the end, I lost 2 or let's say 2.5 days flying backwards. Yeah, but decisions. And once you are alone, you are the only guy who is responsible and who made a wrong or good decision, but never know. So,
I think the critical thing there. Well, there's 2 critical things. One is, let's not BS. The reason you had such a great day is because you were listening to AC/DC, and 2, I'm a big fan. And 2, I think that when you're solo too, you're allowed to, I don't know. I love the X-Alps because you're racing, but I love not racing. And what I mean, and this sounds obvious, but when your goal is kind of loose and gray and you don't have a time frame, then like you said, your only goal is to survive. And man, that's a nice goal. It's the most simple, beautiful, like you said, everything else drops away. And, it's a really nice space to be in, especially for long periods of time. Like you said, with Alaska, when I did the expedition with Will Gadd, the last thing I wanted to do was to get to the end. Really, with the X-Alps too. I mentally actually really have struggled with that race because you racing for the end. And of course, the one time I made Monaco was very, very special, but the next day I was really sad because it's over. And now what? People aren't cooking for me anymore. I don't get to we just don't get to go hammer anymore. It all just ends. Everybody goes home, And so, yeah, it's a special headspace to be in, is to just, like you said, go the wrong way for a couple of days. Who cares?
Yeah. I can see we have very similar experiences, and there is Socrates quote. There is a majority, which you don't need to speak because they will never understand. And there is minority, which you also don't need to speak because they know even without words. And I think we are this minority which have very similar experiences. So when you are sharing your observations, I'm just smiling because I see and I feel the same.
Well, Juraj, it's been really good. I'm glad we finally connected. We didn't get to know each other very well in the 2019 race. We had a nice day together for a bit, and then, but this time, hopefully, I'll get to spend more time with you. I'm going to be doing the reporting on it again, so I'll be bouncing around the course with you guys and hopefully flying with you a bit. But I wish you all the best in your preparations. Keep crushing all the stuff you're doing. You're really inspiring a lot of people, including myself. It's been really fun to watch what you've been up to these last years. And good luck, man. We'll see you soon.
Thank you so much. And I just want to say big thanks to you because I watched your film about Alaska and this crazy BB hell. And one of the things which really inspired me was also this one. So thank you so much to giving this, I don't have English word for this, but let's say this piece of gold to the next generation, because one of the important things for all of the mountaineers or even the, let's say, adventure people is to share it, not because to be kind of famous or what, but to inspire the next generation. Because I don't know how you get into this, but I was watching movies, I was reading the books about Messner or all of these, even watching the Beerman of Karakorum. And that's one thing which inspired me, like, hey, I really want to feel the same. I want to be there. I want to see this. I want to feel that fear and scared to death and freezing and whatever. I want to have the same feeling because it inspired me. So thank you so much. And I'm really, really happy that we finally stick together. I'm sorry that it took a lot of time, but yeah, I was kind of busy building a new van and stuff like this. And we speak quite a long time. And I see we didn't get a time for this India mission explanation, but 74 minutes, it's quite a lot. So it's
well, that'll be part 2.
Yeah, okay, I'm in, man.
We'll leave people hanging a little bit. We'll have a second story.
Okay. I'm in. Nice idea.
Sounds good. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
Okay, cool.
If you find the Cloud-Based Mayhem valuable, you can support it in a lot of different ways. You can give us a rating on iTunes or Stitcher, or however you get your podcast. That goes a long ways and helps spread the word. You can blog about it on your own website or share it on social media. You can talk about it on the way up to launch with your pilot friends. I know a lot of interesting conversations have happened that way. And of course, you can support us financially. This show does take a lot of time, a lot of editing, a lot of storage and music and all kinds of behind-the-scenes cost. So if you can support us financially, all we've ever asked for is $1 a show. And you can do that through a one-time donation through PayPal, or you can set up a subscription service that charges you for each show that comes out. We put a new show out every 2 weeks. So, for example, if you did $1 a show and every 2 weeks, it'd be about $25 a year. So way cheaper than a magazine subscription, and it makes all of this possible. I do not want to fund this show with advertising or sponsors. We get asked about that pretty frequently, but for a whole bunch of different reasons, which I've said many times on the show, I don't want to do that. I don't like having that stuff at the front of the show. And I also want you to know that these are authentic conversations with real people, and these are just our opinions, but our opinions are not being skewed by sponsors or advertising dollars. I think that's a pretty toxic business model. So I hope you dig that. You can support us. If you go to cloudbasedmayhem.com, you can find the places to support. You can do it through patreon.com/cloudbasedmayhem. If you want a recurring subscription, you can also do that directly through the website. We've tried to make it really easy, and that will give you access to all the bonus material, little video casts that we do and extra little nuggets that we find in conversations that don't make it into the main show, but we feel like you should hear. We don't put any of that behind a paywall. If you can't afford to support us, then just let me know and I'll set you up with an account. Of course, that'll be lifetime, and hopefully you're being in a position someday to be able to support us. But you'll find all that on the website. All of you who have supported us or even joined our newsletter or bought Cloud-Based Mayhem merchandise, t-shirts or hats or anything, you should be all set up. You should have an account and you should be able to access all that bonus material now. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate your support, and we'll see you on the next show. Thank you.